Is it really so bad, Scott, that you can see better, move faster than any human could ever hope? The bite is a gift. Get away from me!
Satisfy yourself with an extended finale.
Am I gonna regret this?
Probably.
Hi, this is Jeff Davis, executive producer and writer for Teen Wolf.
And this is Toby Wilkins, director of this episode and the previous two.
So, we shot in a parking garage this night, and one of the writerly things in TV is whenever you're down on budget, shoot in a parking garage. But how does it feel for a director?
And a directorial thing is, whenever you're shooting in a parking garage, just change the signs and use the same floor for every floor of the parking lot.
I love that. Yes, makes it easy. So is this a fun night to shoot?
This was a cold night, I think. I seem to remember
every night in Atlanta was a cold night.
But yeah, this was an amazing night. We had some amazing toys to play with for the chase sequence, which is coming up. And I had a conversation with Tyler about how he was allowed to run, whether he was going to be allowed to run flat out or not. And it was important to both of us that he did.
Yeah, and it looks like, and those milk trails are CGI.
CG edited. Impossible to get on a day.
Yes.
This shot is also CG, I think.
Reflection.
So here he is running absolute flat out, which you very rarely see on television or in movies, actually.
And how are you able to do this?
There's a bunch of stuff going on. There was a sort of a really high-powered electric golf cart type device with a camera on it, chasing him, following him, alongside him. And just everyone going flat out, basically. Kind of dangerous.
You know, another thing I love about this sequence actually is the color. I mean, we've got it's a very different color palette than what we see in some of the other episodes. Maybe it's the colors of the garage, but
yeah,
it looks beautiful.
The muted greys of concrete are always
is that it?
To put stuff in. Some of these obviously the splashes of color for the numbers were really sort of what separated each.
Now, is that something you think about a lot beforehand, or is this on the day you kind of realize it's a happy accident you get these kind of different colors?
No, I mean, we chose this parking lot because of its look. You know, it had these sort of long walls and long stretches, and it was all of a slope rather than having any flat sections. So it was really fun to shoot in.
That shot I love.
That's a really great stunt from our stunt guys. Really nicely put together.
And that is called Buttoning a Scene by Tyler Hacklin. How did you direct him? How did you direct these guys in this scene?
In this scene?
Yeah.
This was... There's a joke in here.
You know, we had him ADR it because he didn't say it right.
Oh, he didn't.
And I said to Tyler Hecklin actually in the ADR booth, you know what line you're gonna ADR, and he's like,
It's because it's kind of a toilet humor joke, and he didn't.
He didn't deliver it.
I don't think he wanted to on the day, but it was funny. I think it's still
he acquiesced in the ADR booth.
But this is definitely an in-your-face scene. It's you know. He's really being put in his place and sort of being told how it is, and you know, given a set of rules that he's supposed to obey, which sort of unfolds for the rest of the episode as to varying degrees of success with him.
Yes.
Obeying and disobeying.
You got them at a really good intensity here, though. I think you got great reactions. And one of the things I like about you as a director is you're very quiet with the actors, but I know that you're always leading them towards a performance.
I'm generally very quiet.
Yes, you are.
But yeah, I mean, this was the last thing we shot on this day. Mm-hmm. Everyone was very, very tired, and it was, yeah, I mean, you and I kept talking about how we really needed him to be very intense in this scene. And this is a lie. And there it is.
Classic reversal.
Love that reveal.
And one of the things I love about this scene actually is the song that was chosen.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Who chose this song, actually? Was it Laura, our music supervisor?
I think it was the editor, actually.
That's a beautiful shot. What I really like is the difference in color tone.
Yeah, between those two scenes. Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
I mean,
a lot of TV doesn't do that.
I love the warmth of this scene. Their room is, you know, her room is so just warm and tungsten. I love it.
Yeah, a lot of TV uses very much the same color palette, scene from scene, but And this is something you get, I believe, from a feature director like yourself.
It's something I on Splinter, actually, we were very, very conscious of, because that's a film that takes place almost entirely in one location, and to separate the different areas of the location, we went for different colors, different lighting scenario.
So they're kissing on screen here for a total of maybe 20 seconds. How long are they actually kissing in real life?
That was a fairly extensive shoot to get
like
all those
3
little
hours
tiny
of them
moments.
making out?
Probably something like that, which actually was something I think everyone was a little bit nervous about doing before it, but it all came together so seamlessly and sort of almost technically. Like I was constantly speaking to them off camera. You know, raise a hand here, you know, move your head this way, and it just sort of made it very, very relaxed.
You looked amazing.
That wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that you're grounded and you can't see Scott.
I'm not going to be one of those whining teenagers who looks at her father and says, I hate you, I wish you were dead. But I hate him and I wish he was dead.
I love Jill in this scene. She's so relaxed.
She's great. And you worked with her on Splinter.
Yeah. She was one of the leads in Splinter, and I was so happy we were able to get her back and put her on in this show. It was such a
She was your
no-brainer for character.
She was your find, actually, and she auditioned. Her audition tape was sent to us from the trailer of her, from her trailer from the set of Wipeout.
Right.
And she was literally shooting scenes and then flying back hours later to Wipeout, and then back to us in order to do the series.
Yeah, she was a trooper.
Now, in writing, this is what we call an unfortunate exposition dump. So how do you treat a scene like this? How do you shoot it?
What's clever about the writing here is it's not purely exposition. It's not that two characters are talking about something they both already know.
Mm-hmm.
So, Aunt Kate is telling Allison a piece of information that she wants her to know.
Yeah.
Because she's stirring the pot.
Scott clearly does not want her.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's sort of a big pot stirring thing, and I think it's a much clever way of delivering that kind of story than just exposition. I think give yourself some credit for making it a really interesting, based in fact kind of story. I mean, you do that amazing kind of research that I don't know anyone else who really puts that much time into finding those real stories and those, I mean, I'm sure you found that illustration, right? That's probably...
Yes, that's the Beast of Gévaudan, and it is the best procrastination. Now, I love this scene, too, because it's one of his first real encounters. It's one of the first times we use the suit, the Alpha costume.
Right.
There's a mixture of CGI and costume in this.
I love it because it's just a classic horror movie scene.
Yes, yeah. And it's also one of the big moments of the spiral really being a...
That's the glove.
Yeah, oh god, that glove. We always made him wet, because the costume always looks best when it's wet. That is a great CGI moment, actually, that face coming by. And this is all the costume.
That works great.
This music is actually called Peek and Destroy, and it comes from a music library. It wasn't actually done by our composer, Dino Hennigan.
It's a great piece of music for that moment, because it replicates the sound of fingernail and chalkboard that you want that spiral to make.
Right.
This is one of those little reveals.
And it's funny because we see him look out the window and he's actually on a set. An easy shot to do.
You seriously need to stop doing that. So what happened? Did he talk to you?
I love those moments where the bad guy's always been there, and they just turn on a light or look over or see him out of the corner of their eye.
And what is he doing sitting there in the darkness?
Waiting for Scott
It's a
to
bad
come
guy
home.
thing.
Remember, your other senses are heightened. Communication doesn't have to be spoken. What kind of feeling did you get from it? Hey, anger.
Again, he's teaching him here. There's a
It's the master-apprentice story.
exactly. Yeah.
And this is beautiful lighting, too. I love it when we can allow half of their face to be in darkness. They're like high contrast.
Yeah, it's quite rare to get that kind of freedom.
And you come from a visual effects background. how's that inform like scenes like this? Are you?
It's funny. I'm always amazed that despite the very, very technical background I have in effects, and I come from graphic design and computers and digital film stuff and all of that, and as soon as I step on set, all of that goes out the window and becomes second nature and just sort of sits in the back of my mind somewhere, and I'm paying attention to every pixel. But what I really care about and really focus on is the characters and what the actors are feeling, and getting them to that place where they can give that performance. And it's just a completely different part of my mind.
Do you ever get back into the editing room and think to yourself, what the hell was I doing there? Because now you're looking at it from a more technical standpoint.
No, I love the edit though.
Now, how'd you do this shot?
Here's another transition shot. Oh, I love those transitions from scene to scene.
Tell us how you did that.
That was a guy with a pillow literally standing behind Tyler Posey, and you can actually see him in the background of the shot as we pull away. But this is one of the most complicated shots. I think this was take 12 or 13 of that Steadicam shot that looks down, essentially in all four directions in one shot.
And that is very hard to do, especially on TV.
Incredibly hard to do, and Jonathan did an amazing job of keeping the lighting consistent and really the choreography of everybody coming down the hall and opening doors and turning and looking and getting everything perfect was a real challenge, but I think it was worth it. It was a fun little shot.
Yeah, and in TV, especially when you get to take 12,
People start
producers
yelling
are
at you.
panicking, and everybody is yelling, "You're done, you're done."
But that's what's great about working with you, Jeff, is that you totally appreciate that kind of moment and the value of it, and how it sort of, I think, elevates elevates everyone's feeling about the show too. Is that you do stop and take that time every now and then to do something really
Got to
awesome.
get it right.
Right.
And now we have Dylan O'Brien. What's Dylan like to work with as an
Dylan's
actor?
amazing. I think Dylan is an incredible comic talent. Actually, I had a conversation with him about this. His sense of timing is so exactly the same as mine as far as his comic timing goes.
Really?
That he will often add like a little button at the end of a scene exactly when I would want to cut out of the shot.
That's interesting.
I actually had to have a conversation where I was like, okay, just resist the temptation to add anything at the end of this one.
Because you're ruining my cut.
Because the edit point is exactly where your instinct, like it's exactly right. His timing is perfect.
Oh, because he's adding something because he knows the scene's supposed to be over,
Right.
and he's filling silence.
His just sense of beat, and we're done.
Right.
So he'll just do something because he senses it too.
Yes.
We've hung on this moment long enough.
Yeah. And you, of course, in editing, want space to cut.
Right, you have to cut out of it.
The what of who?
The Beast of Jovadon. Listen.
I love. This was
Holland.
actually an argument. Holland eating raisins one by one with a fork.
You had an argument with her about
Well,
it?
no, she was just concerned of the message this would be sending to teenage girls across the country that, under eating is the way to go.
That's
But
hilarious.
I just think it's funny that she's eating raisins with a fork.
Yes,
One
it's
by
very
one.
Lydia. That's great. I never even noticed that. Now, this is another one of those hard scenes where she's reading from a book and we have to make it as interesting as possible. Hopefully the material is interesting as well, because it's kind of cool stuff that
And
she's reading about.
you have to believe that she's reading from a book.
Yes.
Which is very difficult to do, and because she's as a character is trying to tell a story in an interesting way, but she's reading from a book and it has to feel non-spontaneous because she's not telling the story herself.
Right. I remember we were telling her to treat it like she was telling a ghost story, right? I love a good push-in on a great picture. Of course, those red eyes remind Lydia of a previous episode.
Beginning of the previous episode.
Now, look at her face. That's a great performance on her.
Lydia. It looks like a big wolf. See you in history.
That's
That's
one of
very-
those. That's one of those changes, like turn on a dime moments that Holland's really great at giving to that character.
Now, I remember having a little argument with Dylan where I did not want him to do his Yoda voice here. But he was like, it's funny. And I'm like, I said to him,
thought it was
it's the
the opposite.
worst Yoda voice I've ever heard.
I thought it was the opposite. I thought he was resisting doing Yoda.
No, he wanted to do it. Yeah.
he got it eventually.
Plus, I'm definitely a better Yoda than Derek.
Okay, yeah, you teach me.
Yeah, I'll be your Yoda.
Yeah, you be my Yoda.
You're Yoda. I will be. I said it backwards.
Yeah.
I know.
I love this, just the ribbing they give each other in these scenes.
They absolutely seem like the best of friends.
And they are.
Yeah, that's funny too, is they literally became the best of friends on set.
I love this little chase scene.
Do you remember that moment right
I do.
here?
This is one of those moments where someone sitting in the tent watching the screens, an executive producer can save thousands of seconds of messing around on set. That sign on the door, the boys sign, was above the door on the wall.
And you were doing a tilt down.
I was doing a tilt down, and it was.
And I came over and I was like, "What the hell are we doing?" And ripped the sign off and stuck it back to the door. Now, this is pretty seamless, but some of these shots are actually done months and months later. And one of the reasons for that is because
whose phone it was?
we had to change whose phone it was.
The wrong character's phone.
Yeah.
Didn't have that function or something.
Yeah, wasn't able to use the app. So we changed it, and some of those shots were actually reshoots. But it works pretty seamless.
I like the Incredible Hulk. Yeah.
No, like the Incredible
Would you
Hulk.
shut up and put the strap on?
Now, I call this the Incredible Hulk moment, because he rips through the duct tape.
The heart rate transformation.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite scenes, too. You had very little time to shoot this,
This was
right?
a ridiculous scene. We shot, I think, 3 shots to record this entire sequence. And actually, there's about 10 visual effects shots in here.
Yeah, all those balls are visual effects.
Well, not all of them, but some of them. But what's more important is the consistency of how many balls there are on the ground.
Right.
That was done in post. Like, that ball was CG.
I mean, this is a very simple scene. You had very little time. What's funny is, actually, Colton, who plays Jackson here, didn't look sick enough in this scene.
Compared to the next scene. And it still jumps for me.
Yeah, so
He's still very, very sick in the next scene.
Yeah, it is a jump. But we did go back in and use CGI to add dark circles under his eyes, so at least he doesn't look quite as healthy as he does.
And naturally, it's very healthy.
Yes.
It's very hard to make look sick.
Yeah. He's like Brad Pitt. The more you dirty him up, the better he looks.
Right, exactly. It's like the Fight Club mentality. Yeah. This is, the balls hitting him here was like really what brought the scene to life after editing. We kept throwing in more actual hits, and it really added energy to the scene.
And it's also a great song found by our music supervisor, Laura. Yeah, it's a great moment of discovery for Jackson, too. It's like, what is going on here?
That's one of those moments where I really wanted to see his claws come out and dig into the ground.
Oh, that would have been great.
But another hour and a half of makeup. And
yeah. Those are the kinds of shots we put down as pickup shots later, and hopefully reschedule them and get them. But it is really brutal and hard in the pace of TV to do that.
This shot of Dylan is amazing that it came off as well. It was basically dusk at that point. The sun was down, and it was a grey sky, and we just managed to pull it off, and it matches fine.
Yeah, and those are the points where you actually have lights
on
the ground, trying to make the day longer.
And it worked great. And actually the sky looks beautiful in that shot, because it was so dark.
Yeah.
If it had been daylight, we would have...
You know what's funny about this scene is the line where Dylan says...
that shot there, not to interrupt, from inside the cage was a total gimme. Like I had to have a whole conversation. I had to have a whole conversation for someone who was telling me to move on to the next scene to let me get that shot through the cage, because I wanted to show that he's this caged animal, and that was just sort of a metaphor for this whole scene, which is why I said it.
Oh, that's
like
very
with
nice.
his head inside the cage.
Did you use that reasoning?
Yes, I did, and it worked.
Yes. Now, this is something, when it was put down in the script, I was very nervous about it looking good.
How the hell are we going to pull this off?
Yeah, and I think the CGI works quite well.
I think it's amazing, actually.
Yeah.
I'm really, really happy with how
And people were really talking about this the day after.
I mean, there were animated GIFs of this all over the internet, of these fingers
I love
coming out
that.
of his mouth.
Ah, that still looks
Seamless,
great.
totally seamless.
And it's just the right amount of time, I think, for
Perfectly subtle. well, not hardly subtle, but perfectly just the right minimal amount that you want.
I love his look. Colton is a really underrated actor. And part of that may be his model background, but I think he's really good. I mean, he gives looks and...
When he breaks down the wall, and like in this scene particularly, you know, when he really goes for it and you know, has faith in himself and really can bring it in a really quite astonishing way.
I remember when we were talking about this scene, I used The Shining as a reference quite a bit, because I remember there's this one scene in The Shining where Jack talks to his son Danny and says, "Come here, Danny."
And just tells this really creepy story in a really creepy way.
You like the Overlook Hotel, don't you? And Danny's like, "Sure."
You know I love you, Danny.
Yeah, I wanted the scene to be like that, and I think all these very easy camera moves, like him walking into frame and us not seeing his face at first, is a great choice. And Colton was actually really nervous about shooting this. Do you remember why?
I mean,
performance.
Yeah, performance, and just because of such an extreme shift for the character too. Like to be such a creepy bad guy in this scene. Like, I mean, that's for an actor who loves his character, which all actors must do, to embrace the idea that you can be that creepy and still maintain your love of the character. That's something you have to really wrap your head around as an actor.
Not so sure I believe you're being sincere.
Yeah, we had a lot of talk about this scene.
And this music is great too. I love what we
the music was built by the editor, Alyssa.
It's a couple of things. It's a track by an artist called Zoe Keating, who's a cellist. Does these amazing atmospheric sort of layered cello pieces.
But those piano hits were added, right?
Some of the piano hits were added by our composer, I think, or they were just editorial piano hits from something else.
Yeah, Alyssa added the piano hits, I believe.
And we were choreographing them so specifically. I mean, we spent a lot of time editing this scene for a number of reasons. There were lots of consistency things with where they were sitting in head positions and things. And it's one of the problems with shooting, you know, 2 shots in both directions is everything has to match, cutting back and forth.
Yeah. Seeing Colton up close like this, I always tease him about his eyebrows. They are perfect eyebrows. I always say those eyebrows someday will crawl off his head and nest and become beautiful butterflies. I mean, look at them. He loves it when I tease him, though. You have to tease actors that pretty.
I love the simplicity of the shots in this scene, though. The square shots looking straight at the lockers are really... It's just a really interesting... Just that blue, you know, as a background. Just really focuses you on the performances.
It's a very teenage thing, too. I remember sitting in the halls in school against my own locker, studying in between classes or catching a moment to brush up.
I want to get to know you guys better.
He's doing his... The character is doing his best to not be creepy in this moment.
I love her pull back there.
It's amazing.
And here is Arnie Adams. What is it like directing Arnie Adams, who comes from a stand-up career?
Arnie is a force to be reckoned with. He's so spontaneous. Like, his entire career is made around being spontaneous, never delivering a joke the same way twice, never delivering anything the same way twice. And he brings that to set, unfortunately.
Yes.
So every single take, he's in a completely different place, standing in a completely different way. But that's what really brings it to life, I think. So it's certainly a challenge in editing, but on the set, he really brings things to life.
And I'm always asking Arnie, can we try it once the way it was written? And he acquiesces, but oftentimes he'll bring something that I really like. A couple of lines in this scene are improvised, and he's great because he'll come up to me and be like, "Is it okay if I say this? Is it okay if I try this?" And I'll look at one of the producers on set, or I'll look at you and say, "Do we have time for it? If we have time for it, we can. If we don't, do it like it's done at the script." This is actually a really important scene.
Yeah, I love this. I love the way this scene unfolds, and I love the ending of it particularly.
Okay. And now there's the mention of Greenberg. And I remember you coming up to me and saying, "Which one is Greenberg?"
Right.
And I was saying, "That's the point of the joke."
That's when I was led into the little running joke, which I had no clue about.
There is no Greenberg.
Greenberg is an unseen character.
And may actually be a figment of Coach's imagination.
Sarcasm. You familiar with the term sarcasm, McCall?
Very.
It's a great reaction.
I think I forgot.
Nice work, McCall. It's not like you're not averaging a D in this class.
And I think this is one of those moments where, you know, everyone's worst nightmare is just being called out so blatantly in front of your entire class and having...
I remember a math class. Actually, when I was writing down this scene, I remember a math class I used to have where the teacher would always single out this one kid. And you kind of wonder, what happens to that one kid who is constantly being singled out in class?
Turn into a werewolf.
Honestly.
No, how about the adults only warning from your favorite website you visit every night? Anything? Thank you, McCall. Thank you. McCall, thank you for extinguishing any last flicker of hope I have for your generation.
And now we're just watching Orny.
Thanks.
Well, I'm feeling Scott's panic.
Unless that's too much reading.
He added that line, unless that's too much reading. Which makes no sense whatsoever, but it's funny.
Something had to be said.
And there's that moment of holding hands. And it was so romantic. I was told once by a producer that I can't write romance. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I think you can.
Yeah.
It's funny, I realized the other day that every horror movie I've ever made, the main characters say I love you at some point.
Really?
During the movie, yeah.
And this is the first time he says it in this scene.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't say it to her yet.
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's Allison. Remember what you told me about the night of the full moon? You were thinking about her, right? About protecting her.
But again, that was an amazing piece of music. That piece of music at the end of that scene totally makes it that moment.
Now, these scenes in a show like this are very important because it is a way of us getting back on schedule. When so often in TV you are up against the schedule, up against the pace, we basically say, okay, this whole conversation needs to happen in one shot. As a director, how do you feel about shots like this? It is very limiting in the editing room.
It is very limiting, and as a director, I embrace it. As an editor, I will always try and do something like this, where I shoot enough little pieces to cut around it. A shot from behind, a shot of an individual, something to be able to cut away to. Because I spent enough time in post editing trying to make this kind of scene work that I know I want those options. But a lot of people, as a director, I mean, if we had as many takes as it takes to get it right, I would love to do one as more often. And there are entire scenes in this that we did as well.
Oh, yeah. The problem is with one-ers in TV is that
for time,
literally you have to, our shows have to be something along the lines of 40 minutes and 2 seconds exactly. So we'll literally be in the editing room cutting frames, trying to get a second here, a second there, so that we can make our time. And it's very difficult, especially when you don't want to lose whole scenes. Right. And you're maybe 5 minutes over.
And so you have a shot like that that's a long walk and talk, and you can't cut any of the lines out.
Exactly.
Because there's nothing to cut to, or because the lines are important. And, you know, you're locked into time. And that's why...
I love the reactions here, by the way.
In this sequence?
Yeah. This is great. When we cut back to Scott and he has that, oh my god, look.
This is a fun little moment. That is, in fact, a Chinagraph pencil.
No
drawing
kidding.
a line on the
That's
side of the
great.
car.
That works perfectly.
It's all done with the sound effect.
Hey, dude, what do you think you're doing to that truck, bro?
I bet a lot of people were thinking, how do they scratch the truck? You could imagine, as a viewer, seeing 5 exact trucks lined up for 5 more takes.
It's just a wax pencil.
That is a great
This fight sequence was entirely inspired by a fight sequence from the movie Brick.
I remember seeing that movie in the theater.
Which I saw at Sundance, and I just absolutely flipped for that movie. And the way the fight scene was choreographed in that film was so sort of abstract and great. I wanted to sort of pay homage to it with this moment.
What's funny is, in this scene, we actually had to remove one of the extras, because the extras was actually punching Tyler, right?
We sort of bumped around the casting a little bit.
So they were getting a little too violent?
And the guy with the cap who approaches him as like the main guy is actually a Marine. And
wow.
So, you know, of all the people on set, the one guy you can guarantee will do as he's told is a guy with US Marine training. And that whole thing with the sort of the searching camera is something...
Yeah, that's
I think
beautiful.
I brought it in episode 4. The first time we sort of hear his... You know, see how his hearing manifests itself visually.
What do you idiots think you're doing?
access.
Now, that is actually, to show you how we work around our budget, a cable show, that is actually an office in our production facility. It is actually the office of Tim Andrew, one of our second unit directors, second unit being very important in a show like this, especially when there's action. But we made it into a hospital patient room when we needed it.
And the whole hallway was transformed too for a shot, so we could see out into the hallway. And it was very surreal walking around the production office and seeing, it dressed like a hospital.
Now, one of the funny things about this too is when Ian Bohen was cast as Peter Hale, he had very little idea of what was going to happen. And I think he had no idea that he was going to spend 3.5, 4 hours in a makeup chair putting burn makeup on, and then being asked to not only sit perfectly still and say nothing, but to not blink.
Right.
How do you get an actor to not blink on set?
You ask them very nicely.
and
actually, no.
We have eye drops too, right?
You know what the secret is? Tell them when they can blink.
Ah, that's interesting.
So I say blink when they can blink, and I know when I've got enough, and I know how hard they're trying not to blink. So if you tell them, if they know at some point you're going to tell them to blink, they can relax about it.
Wow,
because they're not worrying about it. This is the only piece of acting he has to do in this whole scene.
And I'll tell you what this is inspired by. I'm a huge Breaking Bad fan, and I wanted some way that he could give a kind of signal
right there.
And this is sort of an homage to Breaking Bad when Hector, one of these drug kingpin guys, all he can do is tap a bell to signal. Now, it's actually snowing in this shot.
It was actually snowing.
This is outside our production office, and it's snowing in Atlanta.
I was like, we were all set up and ready to go, and I came outside because the second unit sort of set up the shot, and I came out to direct it, and as the second we switched to, I think it was the medium shot, it started snowing. That was great. I was just like, okay, let's go with it. It's snowing now. A little bit of driving. So this is another one of those scenes. This is a single shot. We did this probably 6 or 7 takes of this one long dolly shot for this whole dialogue scene. And that was a classic example of me being very conscious of the fact that we're cutting to and from fairly action-driven scenes,
right?
With Derek, interrogating the vet, and and that the scene with the car peeling out.
There starts your move.
And here's the very, very slow move. And I was just very conscious of the fact that this scene was going to be 2 minutes long, or a minute and a half long, depending how slow
the actors delivered their lines.
And they were doing an amazing job. I mean, it was incredible. The first, second, and third versions of these takes were really intense and very, very emotional and incredible performances from both of them, and they were really loving it. And every time I told them to speed it up, they would look at me like I was insane.
Crazy.
Because I knew they were doing an amazing job, they knew they were doing an amazing job, and there was no real, other than for technical reasons, for timing reasons, there was no reason for them to do it faster. But I had to have them do it faster, and I think we shaved probably 15, 20 seconds off the length of the scene by the end of it.
Yeah. And it's a really important scene, too. So this is one of the moments where we should slow down, because it is the "with great power comes great responsibility" speech. It's the Spider-Man speech that Uncle Ben gives to Peter Parker, and was actually the same speech given to Scott Howard, the original Teen Wolf in the movie, by his father.
Scott, you're late again. I hope this isn't getting to be a habit.
And there's Seth Gilliam, best known for The Wire. Phenomenal stage actor as well. I love handheld cameras and stuff like this. Just makes it nice and creepy.
What animal? 3 months ago. The deer.
I love just the bottled up power that Derek has in this scene.
Yeah.
Just like barely contained rage.
Oh, yes.
What do you tell an actor like that in that moment? Be a time bomb about to explode?
With Tyler Heckman, I don't think I had to tell him anything on that day. I think you may have told him the time bomb thing.
Yeah.
But he knows that character really, really well.
Whenever he gets to do something physical, he's always up for it.
Everything we shot in this room, I ended up doing handheld, I think. It's very much reminiscent of the stuff from episode 4 that we did in the same room.
Now that is a great shot. Is that done in post or in camera?
No, this is in camera. This is using a toy called a Lens Baby.
Lens Baby.
Attached to the Canon 5D.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So was it specifically using the Canon to do it?
Yeah. So there's this little tiny sort of weird pivotable lens that took 2 of us to operate, 1 of us to hold the camera, and I was sort of grabbing the lens itself and just twisting it so it was coming in out of focus.
Great.
What? I don't know who you are or who you're protecting. What are you doing? Scott!
Now this is Scott's big first hero moment in the show.
Stop! Stop! Look, when he's conscious, he can keep himself from healing, but unconscious, he can't.
Are you out of your mind?
I remember we had a conversation about big push-ins in TV, especially. Partially, it's thinking about how to go really big on the act-out. Is that something you had to get used to as a feature director, building towards act-outs?
No, not at all. It was something that you sort of let me know was part of the vocabulary of the show. That I embraced as very, very quickly. I think sort of 3 days into shooting, you sort of explained that philosophy was part of the show, because of course no one had seen any of it. No one had seen the show edited yet.
Right.
So it took you sort of just telling me, do one of those push-ins. Maybe it was Russell who told me about it. But yeah, do the push-ins, do that end of the act moment. And I fell in love with it. And I kept doing it.
It's one of the things I love about TV too. Is we actually do 7 acts in our scripts, and I love those moments that build up to those great act outs. I'm a huge fan of cable shows, so they don't have to do it. I don't find myself missing it really, but it's one of the things I do still love about broadcasting cable networks that have commercials is those big act outs. Now this is a fun scene because I remember, didn't everybody kind of look at me when I said I want you to say be a werewolf, not a teen wolf.
Right.
We weren't sure that Dylan could deliver it. I think you came up to me and said, "Are you sure about this?"
That's just what I wanted to check. Just needed to check. Like, are we actually going to use the title of the show in this scene?
And I'm like, if Dylan can deliver it, did I say let's try it 2 different ways? We did.
I don't remember if we did try it both ways. I think we did shoot one where he didn't say that.
Because Dylan, I was like, it's up to you. You've got to deliver this line.
For some reason, I absolutely. Like, my memory of shooting this whole scene, I loved this scene. I don't know why. I think it was just the right sort of elements of toys and cars and, using a lot more dolly than we'd been using up until that point.
We're gonna see if you're right.
This sequence I love. The interior of this office, when I first saw it and picked this room to be the office.
It's great.
I think I sort of pre-shot this whole thing with my little pocket camera.
No kidding.
So I could see exactly what everything was going to look like, and the flashlights, and where exactly he was going to place the flashlight, so it lit the console and lit his face. And
yeah, that's great lighting right there.
And keeping the room dark enough so the flashlight actually made a difference, because it's just a regular flashlight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, a funny story about this is actually one of our assistant editors doing this howl.
He's gotta be kidding me.
This is the fun about Teen Wolf that we get to do. We get to add some humor. And this is actually one of the funniest episodes, I think, in the show.
I think it's a lot of fun. I think the music makes it a lot of fun. I think the interaction between these two is some of its most comedic in this episode. It's before things get really heavy.
Yeah.
And they're still having fun with it.
It's a good midpoint episode because we always want to have a lot of fun with the show because it gets a lot darker after this.
Right.
And things get a lot harder for Scott.
And I think everyone had the sense that it was building to that. That episode 7 was coming, which was going to be like the horror movie episode.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone's sort of really embracing the build-up of that.
There's that glowing eyes. Now, we decided a while ago that we never actually really wanted the wolf howl to be a howl. Because a howl just sounds so musical and almost like a cry for help. So we made it always...
That's almost a cliche, too.
Yeah, we made it a roar.
I'm gonna kill both of you. What the hell was that? What are you trying to do?
Now, this was definitely a hard scene to shoot, I bet, because you've got to have this kind of shape in the background. Whenever a director sees a a black dark shape in the background. They're always probably sitting there thinking, what do I do?
And this shot, that single shot, took so long to set up, but it was so essential.
It's perfect.
The something's watching them shot from way back there.
And here comes
that was a quick, how can we solve this problem of not wanting to reveal that the creature is behind him.
Yeah.
That was a great stunt.
And one of our real to-be-continued episodes.
All right.
Brilliantly done. Toby, well done.
Thank you very much.